I know from first-hand experience that when creating a website, you can get very overwhelmed with all of the choices. You need to decide which tech stack, which language. I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect tech stack, but in this video, I'm going to be sharing the tech stack that I used up until around 5,000 users and what tech stack I've changed to now. The first versions of this website was made with Next.js, and it was very convenient when it was small. But when we started growing and we started adding new features, it all started to become quite a bit of a problem. What maybe used to take 10 to 15 minutes now could take anywhere from an hour or an hour and a half. So I had to find another way to create the code where things could be implemented cleanly and in an appropriate time. When I was just using Next.js, the codebase started to outgrow me. Very quickly, I could no longer remember how things were made, kind of the patterns used for it. It started to become very hard to work with and understand. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that Next.js is fantastic and there were fewer moving parts. Everything was in one code base and was perfect for prototyping. And I can recommend just using Next.js to build your website if you're going to be prototyping and want to develop it quickly. When we got to 8,000 users, the codebase was pretty messy, it was large, and was no longer just an MVP project. Real users were using it, we were processing payments, and we had a lot of things going on. That meant that I had to optimize the codebase and make it more efficient, and that's when I decided to change the way that I structured the whole thing to make it more reliable. So I decided to build the backend separately from the Next.js frontend. That didn't mean replacing everything at once, it just meant that I was going to be remaking all of the things that we already had and then replace them one at a time. So this was a kind of slow process, but I was able to create one thing at a time, and eventually I remade the whole backend and I was able to migrate. So the Next.js project was only handling the front end, making requests to the backend, and then the backend was handling all of the backend stuff. So for the front end, we use Next.js with TypeScript, and we also use CN. I believe that CN gives a very good component library that you can then customize and make it your own, so your app doesn't look like just a generic template. Okay, now moving on to the backend, I decided to make the backend in Python using FastAPI, and I've actually fallen in love with the way of making websites this way. It's very clean and separate concerns. I know that when I'm making something in the backend, I know exactly where it is, and the same thing goes for the front end. I'm sure that this won't be perfect forever, but it's at least perfect for me now, and I think that's how I'm going to be making my MVPs, my mid-size projects, and I'll see what happens when I start to expand more and grow bigger. Now, this fits me a lot better with how I build things, because when I make requests from the front end to the back end, I kind of just have to think, what does the request need to include? Like, how will I structure this request and what will it need to return? So it's way clearer for me to think what things are necessary to return to the front end and what do I actually need to include. So it's clearer for me to understand what needs to happen. And then the separation is obviously very good for the mental aspect of it. I can now remember, like, oh yeah, I do the backend thing like this, and I know how to structure it, and I don't get overwhelmed with having so many TypeScript files and backend and frontend in the same code base. And it's just a lot easier for me to work with. And now I'm back to the times that it should take to implement a feature and make change. Moving on to the database, I've always used PostgreSQL. It stores all our data and it's very reliable and it's been existing for a very long time, and it's still the main database that many websites and SaaS businesses use. And then lastly, we pay for 2 VPS servers where we can host the website and the database. It gives us a lot more versatility, but it also gives us a lot more responsibility. So I'm incredibly happy with how the tech stack that I'm using right now is, and I'm not telling you to copy anything that I did. This is what I've learned through trial and error and what has worked for me, and I'm sure that there are better ways, and I'll continue to update my tech stack and add new things. But for now, this way works very well for me. So this is not the perfect stack for everyone, but I just feel much more confident and comfortable working with this tech stack. And that's everything that I wanted to share in this video. If you'd like to subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. Take care.